Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to today's episode. We're turning our attention to the Horn of Africa, focusing on Somalia and Somaliland and the wider interests of the United States as well as other countries in the region. This is a story of politics, of power, and the future of the African continent. Joining us is Brother Ilyas. He is our East Africa region lead, and he will take us deeper into the issues at play currently. Brother Ilyas, welcome. Lovely to have you with us. Please go ahead, speak to us about what's happening in Somalia.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Thank you, Sister Nisa and Middle Nation, for inviting me for this great conversation. Looking forward to discuss with you guys important events going on in the Horn of Africa specifically. So let's get right into it. So the main focus of my conversation today will mostly be on the macro level, the new establishment of the new federal member state, which is now called Northeastern State. I believe it is either the sixth or seventh now federal member state of Somalia. Excuse me. In Somali, it's the state is called Rogoi Bari, is what the state is called for those who are interested. Um, so kind of gonna peel back the layers and go back in the timeline to how this came about, what led to it, who was involved, that kind of sort of thing. So inshallah, let's get into it. So just a little bit of context regarding the region, who lives there, the people involved. This region of northeastern state is occupied by a few different clans, namely the Dulbahante clan and also the Wetesengeli clan are inhabitants of that region, and essentially this region of Somalia has always been a disputed region between Puntland, which is the neighboring state to the far east, and Somaliland, which seceded from Somalia in 1991. Um, the uh, the kind of, I would say, the spark plug for what led to the creation of this state was the recent last Arnold War, which happened in 2023, beginning in February and then ultimately ending in August of that same year. So, to give you some context on this issue and what happened, uh, remember, since about 2007, this region of Somalia or Somaliland was essentially administered or seized by the Somaliland administration. And up until between 2007 and now, there's been a lot of disputed conversations, some issues here and there, but ultimately everything hit a fever pitch once December of 2022 came about, where a local opposition politician by the name of Abdi Fattah Abdullahi Abdi, who was unfortunately assassinated by unknown attackers. And the after effect of this killing sparked a lot of anti government protests across the city of Las Anod. Now, between December 2022 and February of 2023, there was a lot of back and forth going on. Both parties, meaning like the Las Anod region and Somalia administration, were both pointing the fingers at each other on who started it, who did what, and what had happened. So ultimately, in February of 2023, local clan leaders commanded their local militias to defend themselves against anybody who was looking to attack the population in the region, which ultimately sparked the war. Unfortunately, there was a lot of innocent lives lost. A lot of people were displaced. The United Nations, the United States, a lot of government bodies, and also non-governmental bodies have released reports on this regarding what had happened and urging people to de-escalate the situation and come to an understanding so that people's lives and displacement is significantly reduced. Um, so what ended up happening was if we fast forward after the war, or sorry, into August of 2023, the Seoul Senag Ain region and leadership administration had ultimately seized a very strategic military base in the surrounding areas of Las Anod, and they ultimately declared victory over the war that was going on. Um, Once that happened, that's where we kind of get into the official rollout of or I would say the tires got kicked for the formation of the new federal member state, which we have today. So once the last Arnold was over in August, we fast forward over into January of 2024. Um, at this time, keep in mind, Somaliland's president was President Musa Bihi, and he um, he did something very interesting because uh, once that war was over, President Hassan Sheikh invited President Musa Bihi to Djibouti to have, I believe it was like a peace conference of some sort, where both parties came together. They met. I don't know if it was the first time, but it was a very interesting meeting. They met in Djibouti, had the conference. President Musa Bihi was accompanied by, I believe, his vice president, or it might have been his minister of defense, and Somalia's foreign minister at that time, who is now Somalia's minister of defense, Minister Fiqi, um, ended up signing, I believe there were documents kind of giving like a promise to not escalate this, to bring an end to this, to bring justice, that sort of thing. So I could be wrong, but I don't know if it was a day later, but it might have been a day or two later. President Musa Bihi flew to Addis Ababa to meet President Abiy and infamously signed what's known as the MOU that was quote unquote going to give Somaliland international recognition in exchange for a bunch of things. Just to name a few, Ethiopia was to get 20 kilometers of leased land. Um, Somaliland, I believe, was also, in addition to the international recognition, going to receive shares in Ethiopian Airlines. Um, there was some other investments, like I believe a corridor was going to be built to enhance trade between the two. So there was a couple incentives for both parties that was involved. Just a tad side note, this sparked a lot of discomfort and outrage from the community because I believe it kind of blindsided the Somali federal government because like a day or two ago, Musa Bihi just met with them. President Musa Bihi just met with them, and they've come to an understanding regarding the aftermath of the Las Anod War. So ultimately, um, yeah, like I said, the MOU with Ethiopia and Somaliland kind of blindsided a lot of regional stakeholders. So this led the federal government to ultimately reach out to all of its loyal allies, such as Egypt was involved. China definitely came into the fold. I know Turkey was also involved as well too in terms of allying with Somalia and trying to counter this MOU. So what ended up happening was between January and November of 2024, there was a lot of pressure on President Abiy Ahmed from Ethiopia to not sign this MOU for many reasons, of course, just of what it could spark in the Horn of Africa and the wider region. There was a lot of dissatisfaction. But on the flip side, on the Somaliland side, there was a lot of it seemed like the approval rating was high, mainly because this is something that Somaliland has been in quest for a very long time. They've been looking for international recognition, and they saw this as their opportunity to finally get it. But ultimately, it seems like now the MOU kind of has been swept under the rug. I don't know if they made, I don't believe Ethiopia has made any official announcements about it now that they have a new administration in. Another side note, too, regarding the MOU, leaders within Somaliland, I believe, were also there was some opposition within Somaliland because the MOU that was signed was not passed through the House. It was not viewed by other stakeholders, law policymakers. So the normal protocol you would with something this big, the most important players, some of them, or I believe all of them, really. I don't believe President Musa Bihi really consulted with anybody who has a stake in the policy of Somaliland. So um, just for context, I wanted to add that part. Now, if we fast forward to November of 2024, now remember between January of 2024, November 2024, like I said, there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of international people sending out press releases explaining that this will cause escalation. So there was a lot of pressure on Musa Bihi and also Abiy Ahmed too as well. His approval rating was dropping fast because people would see that this is a very aggressive move to violate the sovereignty of Somalia. So it was a lot of immense pressure from the international community. So coming into November of 2024, Musa Bihi was replaced by the current president, Abdurrahman Iro, who was on the opposition party of the Somaliland political spectrum. And I believe before he was inaugurated as a president, he himself mentioned that because the MOU was not passed through the right protocol, the correct channels, he would look at it essentially to see if this is something worth pursuing, if this is going to be something that's damaging for us, et cetera, et cetera. So if we fast for, so that's basically that's the fallout of the Las Anod conflict, essentially. Now, if we fast forward to the top of this year, 2025, this is where it gets a lot of really dense information because a lot of things have happened, beginning with the inauguration of Donald Trump, who was now the president of the United States. And early this year, there was a lot of rumors about Donald Trump recognizing Somaliland, through different outlets and media sources. So what the Somali federal government, they did a couple things. Firstly, there was actually a verified letter by the president of Somalia, it was a diplomatic letter he sent to the White House explaining that um, I'm not sure which term to use it as, but I believe it was some sort of air quotes like a political hedge to try to get ahead of the recognition or the rumors that were swelling at the time. So Hassan Sheikh essentially, President Hassan Sheikh essentially told the White House that, hey, if you want to get access to all these strategic ports on the coast of Somaliland or Somalia. Work with the federal government. We will give you access. We will strike a deal with you. Like kind of like I'm paraphrasing here, by the way. This is not what was in the letter, but just so you understand, that was the rhetoric around the memo. Now, a few months later, in April of 2025, there was a lot of rumors going around that the prime minister of Somalia, Hamza Badr, I believe is his name, was actually going to make a trip up north to the Las Anodes region after there's been some conversations with the leaders of SSC and the other clan leaders of the region on establishing what is now the northeastern state. So this between I would say the end of 2023 and uh, April 2025, there was a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings They had actually a huge conference that lasted about 9 days on how the state was going to be established, who was going to be involved, the key stakeholders, et cetera, et cetera. So the rumors actually were true. And what ended up happening was something very historic, in my opinion, based on Somali's history. The Prime Minister of Somalia actually took the trip up north. And this is coming off the heels of that letter that Hassan Sheikh sent to the White House. So the federal government kind of now I know a lot of people say they're very unpopular now and there's a lot of opposition to them, but in terms of a political sense, I would say for the unity of the country, these moves kind of helped from a like a macro level prevent any foreign interference in partitioning of Somalia. So the prime minister went to a region, by the way, that has not that no like premier parliament member has been to in I believe 40 plus years. The last premier parliament member that went to the north uh unfortunately lost his life, who was one of the presidents of Somalia, I believe in 1967. His name is President Sharmarke. He was assassinated, unfortunately, by one of his own security members. So that was the last time that someone, or you know what? Excuse me, pardon me. The President Siad Barre did go to the north in the 80s. He had like a tour, but it's been a long time ultimately that's the point I'm trying to get at. So this move was seen and by a lot of Somali people, honestly, not only from the outside in the diaspora, but within the country, especially in the Las Anod region, as a very positive move. Because I know that region of Somalia has been yearning for some sort of regional administration that is connected to the federal government. So it kind of gave a lot of people hope in the sense that, okay, we've now come to establish our federal regional administration. We're separate from Somalia, or sorry, or we're separate from Somaliland. So now we kind of have our foot in the door. So ultimately, that's how the new federal member state came into existence. Once the prime minister came, he gave a speech explaining how we are now committed to supporting our brothers in the north, assisting them with technical assistance, any type of financial resources, support. It all came up there. Um,
My
a
question
lot of people from that, yes, sorry.
my question between Somaliland and Somalia and
Mhm,
Somalia sending a letter to the White House, and the aim obviously is to show that they are the legitimate government. You know, they are establishing that to make sure that the
mhm,
United States deal with them in terms of this. Um, are
mhm.
there any sort of conflicts between Somalia and Somaliland? I know that the narrative is, or it is shown in media, that Somalia is a little bit more chaotic compared to Somaliland, which is shown to be well governed and they can do things on their own. Those tribes are, working together. So, do you find that there are still conflicts happening between Somaliland and Somalia? Or is this just politically trying to
Um,
get the United States just to, or somebody just to recognize that Somaliland is a separate country or sovereign state on its own, because no other country is recognizing Somaliland as a sovereign state. And Somalia is trying to show that, well, actually, you still belong to us politically, diplomatically.
yeah, I would say that I mean, as of right now, I don't believe there's any ongoing serious there were some little uh you know sparks in the pan, like nothing really major, I would say. And alhamdulillah for that, to be quite honest, because that's really not going to bring anything. But ultimately, um, this is mostly political. I would also say exclusively political in terms of the tug and war that's going on between both administrations. Um, the Somaliland side of things really are adamant about getting their international recognition and independence from Somalia, which they they say they got in 91. And Somalia, of course, has since been trying to rebuild the federal member state, trying to bring stability. It depends on who you ask. Some say it's a failed state. Some say there's no progress made. I am more realistic in the sense that I do see progress being made from the federal government standpoint. I feel like the whole idea of Somalia being failed and all these negative things is just something to discredit the government, and albeit the little progress they made, it's not really helpful in terms of the broader region. So that would be my take on it. I would say so. Yeah, hopefully that answered the question. I'm not sure if I did, but I hope I did in that
It
respect.
does, yes. There is a little bit, there is one thing that I'm still thinking about, with the new state, northeastern state, the new state that has just been established.
Mhm.
They've moved away, and please correct me, where I'm wrong. So it used to
Yes.
be part of Somaliland, but it is now being recognized as definitely under Somalia. It is a federal state under Somalia. Um, and it used to be under Somaliland, or Somaliland claimed it. Are there
Mhm.
any conflicts happening with this move that is happening right now?
Yeah. So, before it was established as a federal member state, the Mogadishu, which is a capital city, had always recognized that Somaliland was to administer this region. So they were under Somaliland administration. Now, after with the aftermath of the last Arnold War and the history and the context involved, Somalia, the federal government, has established them as their own federal member state. So what that means is the land that Somaliland is claiming has essentially been cut in a third, or sorry, one third of it has been they've essentially lost a third of their claimed territory. Um, with that being said, there are now rumors swirling that the far northwest region of Somalia, or excuse me, Somaliland, it's now being administered under Somaliland, is actually on the verge too as well of gaining federal membership as well too. This state is called Audal, and it's in the very far corner of Somalia. It's literally bordering Djibouti, Ethiopia. It's kind of stuck in that little that northwest corner there. And this state is a very strategic state. It's literally the mouth of the I guess the very bottom of the Bab al Madab, where which is direct access to the Red Sea. There's a lot of natural resources in that region. It's a very rich region, so there's a lot at stake regarding that. I believe the Minister of Defense had just had consultations with a sultan from that region. So there was been reports that there was an upcoming drought affecting that region. So the federal government has also tried to deliver humanitarian aid to the region. So there's a lot of moving parts in regards to that region. It's a little too premature to really comment on it, to be quite honest, because it's still technically under Somaliland's control and administration. But that in the future is definitely something to keep an eye on, because ultimately what it would do is strategically it would cut Somaliland's claimed territory now in two. So two-thirds of Somaliland's claimed territory would be gone, which kind of would make it difficult to really claim international recognition. Now, I don't know if that's the strategy of the federal government. I have no intel, I have no insight. I'm just telling you from my own logical standpoint, like how I see it. Um, with the new establishment of the federal member state of Northeastern state, to kind of circle back to your question, there was a lot of tug and pull from both the Somaliland side and the Puntland side, because Puntland is bordering this region. And there have been reports that leaders from both sides have kind of been trying to work together to undermine this establishment. For their own person, perhaps for their own sake or their own personal stakes, whatever it may be. To prevent losing influence in the region and power and stuff like that. So, very high stakes situation going on with regards to I believe Puntland and Somaliland have both put out press releases regarding this is like a violation of their agreements and it violates what they believe they have authority for. So um yeah, it's kind of a little of a rough patch for them on their side, but I believe from the the northeastern state side of things, actually today, this morning, I read that according to the local media and the reports, they have actually uh, sworn in their law and policymakers. So it's a very long list of policymakers. There are women involved as well too. I did see some women, so it's a diverse group of people. I'd say it's a positive sign of the federal government hedging against neo-colonial imperialists that are actively, I believe, personally, trying to partition the state for whatever reason that may be. So I will give my credit to as unpopular as they are amongst some people, I will give my credit to them in terms of trying to hedge any foreign entities from partitioning the state of Somalia for whatever reason it may be. So let's see here. Where did I leave off? Yes. Okay. So now I
There
just
is some
remembered.
other things they are. I know you mentioned a little bit earlier when it came to there are other
Mhm,
countries that are quite interested in this in Somaliland.
mhm,
And obviously, it has a lot
mhm,
to do with resources. I mean, no country, no foreign countries are interested in any other country if they can't benefit. And with the resource that are there,
mhm,
we do have China. You mentioned China, Turkey. And obviously, United States of America,
mhm,
there was like a journalist asked Trump about Somaliland and about recognizing them as a sovereign state, and he said they're looking into it or something like that. And
mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
can you speak to me
I'm glad you
more
mentioned that.
about that? I'm never ever comfortable the
Yes.
moment United States starts scratching in any sovereign state or non-sovereign state for that matter, because this would obviously affect
Mhm,
Somalia, with them being there.
mhm.
As well as besides Somaliland will also affect Somalia. So, I'm not very comfortable with the United States. Can you speak to me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, I would say I was gonna include um the factions that are supporting the unity and then the factions that are kind of pushing towards Somaliland's cause, essentially. And it's mostly the United States. Like, let's be honest, it's mostly them. I don't have any evidence or anything to prove anybody else is involved in this, but I want to say that at the moment, the factions that are we could even say the OCGFC, like the MIC, who is trying to support the secession of Somaliland. I'm sure you saw there was a letter a few days ago that Senator Ted Cruz put out stating that he's in support of Somaliland, which is so funny because he doesn't even know the population of Iran. And now all of a sudden he is focused on a small country in the Horn of Africa. And he's just thinks this is like the most great place in the world. It's hilarious, to be quite honest. But anyways, um,
And it's because of
Somaliland,
that I mentioned a little bit earlier. The narrative is that Somaliland is well governed, peaceful. It's just the
yeah.
best news for the world is that Somaliland should not be Somalia, and that comes from Ted Cruz. So that's why I'm also very skeptical
Yes, yeah,
about who looks good and who doesn't look that good.
absolutely. Yeah, it's so funny. Just watching them, talk about it's the greatest democracy in the world, this is all narrative and spin. Of course, nothing is perfect. Like there is no democracy that is perfect. Somaliland's democracy is not perfect. You know what I mean? Some would argue that it's not even really a democracy, but that's a whole nother conversation I don't want to get into. Ultimately, Somaliland is a very strategic location in the world that is definitely understood by many people in the world. Specifically, Berbera. Berbera is a was actually used by NASA for space operations. It has a very long airstrip right at the corner of a very busy trade route. So this is of interest of a lot of powers. As you know, China has a military base in Djibouti, and China is actually supporting the Somalia side of things. Um, I believe their foreign minister actually threatened Somaliland diplomatically, of course, nothing aggressive, but he mentioned that because of Somaliland's engagement with Taiwan, that they are treading very dangerous waters. Understandably so. Now, I think it is the Somalia, the Chinese embassy in Somalia in China just released a rebuttal to Ted Cruz's response regarding the partitioning of Somalia and the meddling of their affairs. Um, so China has a very big stake in this because, and I believe it was 2022, Somaliland and Taiwan uh, joined into a diplomatic relationship. Um, and of course, this is getting in the midst of things with regards to China and their sovereignty and their territorial integrity. And as disclaimer, I'm not here to say Taiwan or China are part of the same country. That's not my place to say. I'm just out here speaking about what's going on regarding my part of the world. So please don't come after me saying don't Taiwan and China. I'm just explaining the situation here. But so China has been actively supporting Somalia in terms of hedging against the U.S. And their interference in partitioning Somalia. The United States is to kind of circle back to the Palestinian comment regarding the reporter that asked him at the White House. So, based on my research, the general media, has been really spinning that conversation, and it's been blowing up all over social media. I believe the original context was about the countries that are potential landing spots for displaced Palestinians and where they could possibly go, which is terrible. Of course, they should be in their land, and everybody is the global consensus is that they should be there and the occupation should end. But of course, these people want to displace these innocent people into a foreign land. So the context regarding that question was not about Somaliland getting international recognition. It was about Somaliland's involvement in accepting Palestinian refugees, which has been debunked by Somaliland themselves and Somalia. And I believe in South Sudan has rejected this. So multiple regions in the world have rejected this idea. It's an old rumor. It's not something that I believe will ultimately come into fruition. Although we as Somali people, we are not against accepting our brothers and sisters, of course, but we would much rather them be in their land living peacefully and happily, of course. So just wanted to clear that up regarding the Palestinian and Somaliland and how the US is kind of getting involved in that. It has been rejected by the Somali federal government. It's been rejected by Somaliland from what I looked into. There has been no like official conversation. I believe some were making rumors that their foreign minister mentioned that we'll do it if we get recognition. I think that's been debunked. I don't believe he said that. So it's kind of been a broken telephone type of situation regarding that whole ordeal with the U.S. I To kind of touch into the major powers at play here. The United States is mentioning that they are looking to create diplomatic relations with Somaliland, specifically the Berbera port, for their own interest. They believe that it's a very strategic, important region in the world, and they want to quote unquote counter China's influence in that region of the world as well too. So China has been on the side of the federal government, which I appreciate. I believe they've been a genuine partner of the government in helping us defend our sovereignty and territorial integrity. They I wouldn't be surprised if they've assisted to like the government in setting up this this regional state. I'm sure they've had external consultations. Turkey is an interesting player as well too because Turkey is actually trying. Turkey is, I believe, they are a genuine partner. They're a good partner. They've been helping Somalia for a very long time. Um, and they have major stakes in it too as well with the discovery of oil now in Somalia. And at the same time they have, I believe, investments and stakes in Ethiopia. So they're kind of playing in the middle in terms of we of course we all know the Ankara mediation that was scheduled between Somalia and Ethiopia, where they were kind of the mediator of the two to try to get some sort of understanding and not cause chaos in the region. So um, yeah, China, Turkey, Djibouti as well too has been a small player in this as well too. But I think for the most part, the plan of what the government is doing has been working so far, and inshallah we'll see how it plays out. It's still early in the formation and the process of this state. There are still a lot of things that have to come into play. Like I mentioned earlier, they've just sworn in the lawmakers and the policymakers. The federal government has promised technical assistance and resources to assist them to kind of develop a little bit quicker and get the ball rolling for the development of their country or of the region. Sorry.
Is there anything else that you would like to
Hmm.
add before we close off?
I would say like the airstrikes that are happening with Somalia. I think it's definitely important to mention regarding the Horn of Africa and the whole entire region. So just to quickly dive in on it, for context, if for any of those who remember, African Stream, which was a very popular media outlet, a couple years ago, published a report right before Trump's inauguration regarding the airstrikes that were raining down on Somalia and the history revolving around that. And this was something that I honestly didn't even know myself. I learned at that time and been keeping up with it. But um, for context, Somalia, in the context of the war on terror and everything like that, has been a victim of airstrikes for since I believe the George Bush era, if I'm not mistaken. Um, there's the African Stream reported that uh, Bush and Obama's airstrikes in both of their terms were less than Donald Trump's airstrikes in his one term and during 2016. So hopefully that puts things into context. Uh, um, why am I saying this? Because now that Trump is now in office, President Trump, he's picked up from where he's left off, essentially. So keep in mind, President Donald Trump just got elected in January of 2025. Between now and then, he is on pace to break his old record during his first term in terms of airstrikes, which was, I believe, in the 600s, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it was very high number for a 4 year term. Uh, according to reports now, I believe he's about around 50 airstrikes. So this is very seriously troubling. Of course, as you know, AFRICOM is involved in this. For those of you who don't know, Africa Command is the U.S. A military command in Africa, and they put out reports periodically about airstrikes that were done in air quotes in collaboration with federal government. So uh, the seriousness of this is because and this was Africa Stream reported, which was shut down, by the way, for those who don't know, unfortunately, that they will report the airstrikes, but the casualties involved are like there's like barely any mention of them. Between 2016 and 2022, there has been a lot of casualties that have not gone reported. There has been actual accounts of other reporters capturing statements from people who were either affected by it or have witnessed them. And this is a serious troubling development in the Horn because the justification for this is that they are trying to neutralize ISIS, which has now somehow made their way into the mountainous regions of northern Somalia, which is like which could be a whole other episode on its own, but we'll just for time's sake we'll leave it at that. So I mean, how many it just the questions that come up to mind is like how many airstrikes will it take to neutralize them, what's the root cause of them even coming to the like these are strategies in my opinion that are not really addressing the root cause of the issue of how these terrorists have been able to hide in the mountains and I was even reading a report that apparently they have been targeting like close by civilian settlements in them because there's a lot of people who do live in the remote regions, believe it or not, in these regions. So it's very very distressing and sad news. Um, I believe the federal government of Somalia is really, really in a sticky situation because they're really balancing a tightrope in regards to um, not openly rejecting American assistance or defying the United States at the current moment, especially when the country is trying to develop and build its stability. So they're under immense pressure to make sure that they kind of pivot from this method of neutralizing terror within the region. Um, I would be interested to see how things go for in the near future if these strikes continue to increase, if the federal government will address this in terms of casualties involved, if there's any sort of justice that's going to be I don't know, but it is very troubling development that I've been tracking and keeping up with. So it's something to keep an eye on. And yeah, I just wanted to leave it at that regarding that part. So
Jazakallah khair, Brother Ilyas, for bringing us this information and providing your input and contribution to this episode. Much appreciated. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier in our discussion or talk with what when you spoke to us about the United States, Russia, China, getting involved in what is essentially petitioning Somalia. Um, I am not comfortable with the United States of America. And like you said, Trump has, he's
mhm,
increased his barbarity on the region. I mean,
mhm,
this is United States of America. We're not shocked with each president anymore. They're not all, the one isn't worse than the other. They're all equally as
mhm,
barbaric. I mean, that's why they're in that position in the first place, in my opinion. So it is concerning that Somalia and Somaliland think that they could even
mhm,
approach the United States of America in the first place, thinking that there would be some sort of help. I think that is a mistake on its own. I
mhm.
do understand perhaps some sort of desperation, I would assume, but at the end of the day, it's not a good move to get the United States of America involved in your country at all. Yeah, and that's my 2 cents on the
I
whole
agree.
matter.
I agree.
Yeah, so thank you so much for
Yeah.
your time. Thank you to the listeners who made it all the way through. This is very
Mhm,
important conversations that we are having. These are not, sensationalism. We want to bring what is really happening in the region. We want to speak about that because it does affect Africa as a continent as well as the rest of the world. So,
mhm.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we will see you again in the future, Brother Ilyas. Inshallah, perhaps next week, sorry, next month. We will be able to speak about any of the
Inshallah.
other countries in the East, the eastern region of Africa, East Africa, even if it is Somalia, whatever country it is in there. So, thank you so much for your time.
Anytime. And no problem. And yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Until next time, take care.